Iqra. Iqra and I got to know each other a lot over the years. First, we were elected together in 2015. And also we worked a lot on the question of fighting Islamophobia. And I must commend Iqra for her, really leadership in a very tough time. It showed a lot of strength, and it showed how much also she was ready to defend the interests of our own community. And at the time, I was the heritage minister, and I worked a lot on that. And we are young women together, so it's always good to partner and work with other young women because we think it's important also to show that women have a strong place in politics. Now, as foreign minister, I've been very busy because obviously of what's going on. Iqra and I even had the chance to celebrate Ramadan together in Indonesia, one of the countries that has the most Muslim faith people in the world. And at the same time, well, we know that usually foreign affairs is far from what Canadians think about in a day. But right now, it's much more important than ever. Why? Because we know that Russia's war in Ukraine is having an impact on gas prices and on grocery bills. And also we know, because of the tensions we're seeing in the Indo-Pacific, that we need to take a better look at the region as a Pacific nation, because we have an important Pacific coast, but also because of the strong communities we have around the country that have links, so people-to-people ties with the region. And so my goal is to come and meet with you, meet with the community here, to hear what are people feeling, the anxiety, obviously, but also the opportunities, and be in solution mode. And so it's a pleasure to be here in one of the really cool MP offices.
All right, so you're addressing the Pakistani media.
Yes.
So my question is
Yes.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
We have been here from 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think there's no political relation between Pakistan and Canada. Hardly any prime minister or president. I think once President Musharraf visited here, and maybe once Minister Jason Kenney and Prime Minister Stephen Harper visited Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason? There is some hurdle between Pakistan and Canada. Why there's no relation, like no parliamentary members are here. Sometimes some senators came here.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any reason? We have a good relation. 500,000 Pakistani live in
Yeah,
here.
yeah. We do have a good relationship. I'll have my first phone call with the new foreign minister from Pakistan very soon. So we're in the midst of booking it in my agenda. And also our colleague Samir Sumeri was recently in Pakistan as well. And I was in contact with him. We've worked a lot with the Pakistani government, particularly on the question of Afghanistan. We partnered with them to get Afghan refugees out. But I believe that you're right, we need to do more. And I intend to do more, and that's also why I wanted to have the chance to meet with the Pakistani community and also hear the advice coming from Iqra herself.
And also, I think, sorry for that. There's a lot of talk about the travel advisory with the Pakistan. There's a lot of time we ask this question. So why it is? Everything is done. What is done? So why still there is travel advisory?
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to the Minister of Transport about this issue. But I think the first thing is to establish a good relationship, good working relationship with the new government. So that's what I'll do.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
Kashmir is one of the disputed territory in that region. How Canada see that disputed territory of Kashmir between Pakistan and India?
Well, first and foremost, we think of the people living in that territory. It's very important that we have a human approach. And when thinking about Canada and Canada's foreign policy, we think about human rights. So we want to make sure that people in Kashmir's human rights and also safety are taken into account and protected. The other thing, obviously, is we want to make sure that we follow the situation very closely, but we are looking for a peaceful solution. And in the end, we want to make sure that, as in any peaceful solution, the people in Kashmir need to be consulted and get involved.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr.
Mhm.
What is Canada's policy for Afghans Taliban?
Well, we know that regarding Taliban's are recognized as a terrorist group in Canada. At the same time, we want to make sure that the people in Afghanistan are able to be supported because they're facing a very important humanitarian crisis. My colleague, the Minister of International Development, is looking at finding ways to make sure that although we continue to recognize the Taliban as a terrorist group, that we can also get to support organizations on the ground that will be protecting civilians and helping them going through this crisis, particularly women and girls. So that's how we engage for Afghanistan. Now, I know the Taliban have an impact also in the region in general. And so our stance is that they're a terrorist organization, period. Meanwhile, we see a difference as a country that is empathetic and believes in human rights, the difference between getting the aid to the people that are suffering out of the Taliban's influence in the region, and that's why we want to engage with humanitarian organizations.
And would you like to discuss with the Afghan government?
With the Afghan government? Well, the Afghan government right now is controlled by the Taliban. So there's no diplomatic relationship per se. Our Afghanistan envoy is working with other Afghan envoys from the G7, for example. And so should we engage on particularly consular issues, for example, we always do so with our European colleagues and our American colleagues. That's how we approach the issue.
I got two questions.
Yes.
One leading up to this one question. I was in Kabul and Jalalabad in December,
Yeah.
this past December, on the humanitarian work, and we saw information firsthand.
Yeah.
And when we came back, we submitted a report to MP Salma Zahid. I think she's part of one of the committee proposing some of the maybe changes or something. So how soon we would see action from Canadian government which will allow the aid to flow through
Yeah.
the Afghan people in Afghanistan? And then I'll ask second question.
Well, our colleague Harchajan mentioned that pretty much a month ago. It was following the study that was done by the Afghanistan committee, which basically all parties got together to say we need to do that. So I'm glad that we're finding common ground on this issue, because at the end of the day, this is about people's lives. And we, meanwhile, while this is happening, I'm also in contact with also key European countries to see how we can partner with them to provide aid. So, of course, this will be a top priority. We will push to make sure that we can pass this through government, because it has to be done through legislation. More we have all parties on board, more we can make that happen quickly.
Very good, thank you. So the other question I have is sensitive, is what you can share or your office can share stats with us on the issue of forced marriages. So what we're seeing is, we want to play a part. We want to educate our community. What is the downside of such act where parents are taking their girls to Pakistan on a visit, and then they're surprising them with a marriage, and then they're hiding their passports. Now they're stuck there. So we want to educate the community, as well as at the same time we like to understand what are the key reasons of such mindset.
Yes, of
so
course.
how can we help? So what can you share with us?
Well, obviously, this is an awful situation. No girl, because at this point they're not women yet, no girl should be forced into a marriage without her own consent. And there are various reasons why parents do that. I won't speculate, but we know usually this is linked to poverty and lack of education. That's why we have a feminist foreign policy. That's why our target has been really to support women and girls. And that's why we work with organizations to try to do that culture change, but also to go to the root causes of the problem, which are, like I was saying, poverty, lack of education, and particularly making sure that women and girls have access to education. So it is clearly how we engage at the international level, how we engage in the region. As for, Afghanistan, the problem is we're not able to get the aid out for the reasons we just talked about. We've been partnering also with the UN agencies, but we need to also work even more with UNICEF and these different organizations that can do more to counter this phenomenon.
So just to follow up on this, is there any, because based on the reported cases that went to your offices, people seeking for assistance, is that on the rise in the Pakistani community? That we need to do something to address this issue collectively in our community through our media channels and so on?
Well,
Did you collect some of that stats that can be shared with us in some way?
Well, the department would, Global Affairs Canada would, and that's something I can definitely look
Sure, we
into.
can follow up through
Yes, of
Khalid
course.
and Khalid's office.
Of course, of course.
Great.
But so you know, there's a reason why we decided to focus on women and girls, because we think that the entire society in a given country, from Afghanistan to Pakistan, can profit from the rise of women and girls, economically, socially, and just in terms of equality. So it is for social reasons, but also it's for economic reasons.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we have 5 more minutes for questions.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
do 5 minutes for photos at the end.